myself or someone from the team will answer it for you. First, let's talk about minimum wage. Oh yes, now every single person, no matter what the job, even if it's domestic work too, gets a minimum wage. And that starts with a basic salary of 1,000 Qatari riyals. Plus, there's a 500 riyal accommodation allowance and a 300 riyal food allowance. Unless, of course, you're provided with accommodation and food. In that case, you don't get those allowances. By the way, if you want to check out the law, it is law number 17 from 2020. So that's the source. For you employers out there, let me just mention how it works. So first of all, the law is announced. Done. Next, it's got to be published in the official National Gazette. And from that date, you've got 6 months to go ahead and update all of your agreements. And just to let you know, the government's going to support you. They're going to have any extra charges or anything. Now, of course, if you do not comply, you do not go ahead and update those agreements, then listen, I don't even want to think about it, because first of all, it means you're not cool, and second of all, you're gonna get punished.
You're under arrest.
Now, the reason why they're giving companies 6 months so that they can go ahead and process all of this is because they also need to go ahead and review their finances, make sure that they can afford everything, of course. Now, of course, all of these laws were created after they created a task force, number one. Number two, they consulted with a number of different legal organizations, both locally and internationally, and also educational institutes like some universities, so that they can ensure that this was the appropriate thing to do. Good one. Now, of course, don't forget there's also the Wage Protection System, the WPS, and obviously they're anticipating that there might be some more problems, some more disputes, some more complaints, and so they're actually going to be increasing the number of committees so that they can resolve problems related to payments faster. Double thumbs up. So if you go ahead and add the 1,000 riyals of basic, the 300 riyals of food, and 500 riyals of accommodation, that comes to a total of 1,800 Qatari riyals. How does that compare to the minimum wage of some countries? I'll tell you how it compares. In Bangladesh, it's 345 riyals. In Pakistan, it's 380 riyals. In the Philippines, it's 375 riyals. And in India, it's 8.75 riyals per day. Now, one thing to also highlight is that this minimum wage is non-discriminatory, meaning it doesn't matter what your job is or what your nationality is, it applies to everyone. You know what? Triple thumbs up. Okay, where did that one go? Now, what does it mean for companies that have been paying an employee, let's say 800 riyals per month? Yes, now you gotta pay 1,000 riyals per month for the basic salary. If you are paying 2,000 riyals per month, it doesn't mean that you can go ahead and just amend a contract and reduce it. Nope, that's not allowed. You gotta follow the existing contract. On top of all of this, the government is going to be working on some programs in multiple languages to explain to laborers and workers how they can fight for their rights and ensure that they're getting what they deserve. Thumbs up. Here, just duplicate my thumbs everywhere, Tim.
A whole lot of thumbs.
So I'm gonna go ahead and answer some questions in just a second, but let me get to the juicy stuff, the NOC stuff. First of all, what's NOC? NOC stands for No Objection Certificate. You needed that certificate, you needed an NOC from your existing employer if you wanted to change to a new employer. Of course, this is also known as the kafala system. That means that you had to follow what your existing sponsor was saying. Well, no more, because the NOC system has been eliminated. You don't need a certificate anymore. So if you want to go and switch a job and your employer says, hey, I'm not giving you an NOC, you know what you say? You don't say anything, just do this. Read this, man. We got laws. The laws are protecting me. I can go wherever I want. I'm going right now.
Hey boss, how are you?
Tim,
I've got an issue.
good for you.
Okay, I've been with the company for a while, and you haven't given me a raise, so I need to switch to a different company that has better pay. I've got obligations at home.
No,
Why not?
I'm not giving you an NOC.
I don't need an NOC.
Says who? Now, if you want to go check out the laws, check out law number 18 of 2020 and law number 19 of 2020. Now, what does that mean for the country? It means that now it's easier for people that are within the country to get better opportunities. And of course, you're keeping the talent in-house, you know what I mean? Like, people aren't just like leaving Qatar and then coming back later, maybe, and hopefully getting a better job. Like, you're keeping that juicy talent. By juicy, I'm talking about the juicy brain, you know? Juicy brain that you guys have.
You got good brains.
Of course, this law too will come into effect as soon as it is published in the official Gazette. So watch out for the Gazette, or just follow iloveqatar.net. We'll let you know when it's like official. Like it's halas. No more NOCs. And by the way, let me just say, to companies that want to apply the system a little bit early, like they want to waive the fact that you don't need an NOC, you're cool.
Hey, boss.
Oh, hey Tim, how's it going?
Pretty great. How are you?
Welcome to my office.
Am I being fired?
Well, first of all, appreciate the office. Appreciate the ambiance.
It's a beautiful office.
I got some good news for you, man.
Oh,
There's some new laws. 1, minimum wage. 2, if you want to leave, you can leave. You don't need the NOC from me.
but what if I want to stay? You're a great boss.
Now to those employers that are going to be like, wait a minute, that means that I've still got 2 days where I can stop someone from changing their employment. You are an evil person. I recommend that you join the good side. Join us. Come on, it's nice over here. It's bright. Get out of your dark hole. Now, whether you have a fixed or open-ended contract, you can still switch your job. But of course, there are certain rules. Meaning, if in your contract it states that there's a minimum notice, then you have to fulfill that minimum notice. You can't just be like, hey, I'm out, and then just leave. No, it doesn't work that way. You gotta serve your time adequately and let people know that you're being responsible. You're handing over knowledge. Because, you gotta be a good person too. Now, according to the rules, and I'm gonna read this, it says either party must provide 1 month written notice in the first 2 years of the contract or 2 months notice beyond the second year of the contract. So this is the minimum amount. And of course, there is also gonna be a maximum. What that's going to be, not entirely sure just yet, but obviously you can't say, I need 1 year minimum notice. No, you can't do that. It's probably going to be like between 1 and 3 months, depending on the job and the responsibility, and it's up to the employer to justify why. Like if you were a rocket surgeon...
What?
Don't ask questions. There are rocket surgeons out there. They basically build rockets and surgically enhance brains.
Bro, what are you talking about, man?
The good stuff, the juicy stuff that I told you about. Okay, anyway, there's a rocket surgeon out there. He has a specific set of talents. He can't just say, I'm out. You need to give him 2-3 months notice. I gotta go find another rocket surgeon. Where am I gonna find, it's not like rocket surgeons are everywhere.
Bro, I'm out, man.
Now, if you decided to leave without any written notice, then there's gonna be penalties. So remember, do the right thing. You don't want to be penalized. You don't want to hurt the company. You want to go after a better future. So, minimum notice. Now, for you employers out there, you must be wondering, wait a minute, but what if I invested time and money to develop and train an employee? Well, this is something that you need to put in your agreement so that if somebody leaves within a certain time, then you can recoup some of that investment. So, for example, if you put someone on a training course and you paid for them so that they could go learn something, and then the next day after they've learned or after they're done with the course, they quit and they decided to move on somewhere else, you can be like, wait a minute, I paid for this. Here's the receipt. Meaning, you need to make sure that this is in a contract or in another document that is signed by the employee after signing their initial employment contract. So I hope that's clear. Make sure you have everything documented. Same thing goes, by the way, for loans. Like if you gave an employee a loan, employee can't be like, hey, I'm out. No, they gotta pay that back too. Let me just mention that in the past, because of the NOC system, if an employer didn't want to transfer someone to an organization because they considered them a competitor, you had to do something known as a double transfer. You would transfer to a company that was seen as not a competitor and then to the organization that you initially wanted to go to. However, now you don't. You can just transfer straight to a company. But if you have signed a non-competition contract, or there's a non-competition clause in your agreement, then, listen, if you violate that, your previous employer can take you to court. And it has to be very specific as well. You can't just say you will not compete with any of our competitors. The document has to highlight what is considered competition to be very specific. So if you worked in a shop that sold mobile phones, and then you got a job offer at a shop that sold light bulbs, they can't say, oh, they both use electricity, so you can't go. No, It's got to be in the same industry. Now, of course, a lot of people are going to be going ahead and updating their contracts, but dear employers, you cannot put anything in the contract that goes against the law. Remember that. So if the law says that the minimum salary is 1,000 Rial, and then you decide, hey, I'm going to put in the contract that the employee accepts 800, no, you can't do that. So you can't play around with the law. The law's the law.
The law is the law.
So what about part-timers and freelancers? These laws don't apply to them. This applies to full-time employees. So just to be specific with the penalty that you can put in if somebody leaves or breaks their contract earlier, you can't just simply say, if you leave the organization, you owe me 100,000 Rials. It doesn't work that way. You gotta be specific and show that you have invested in that training or development and you want to recoup some of that investment back. So I went ahead on Instagram and said, hey guys, you got any questions? You wanna go ahead and ask me some questions so I can answer? And then you guys were like, yeah, here's all my questions. So I'm gonna answer some of these questions for you. And if I didn't answer your question, again, post it in the comment section below and we'll try to answer it for you. Is the requirement for NOC totally dissolved or depends upon your existing contract? I think I mentioned all of that, but the NOC system is completely dissolved. If you have an existing contract that has certain responsibilities, you still have to give your notice, and if you've got loans, you still have to pay back that loan, and so on. Next question is, are the employees allowed to break the contract period? So yes, employees are allowed to break the contract period. Of course, minimum notice. That's the trend here, minimum notice. You gotta do things fairly for both sides. When will the no NOC rule come into effect? So it's announced now, and as I mentioned, once it's published in the official gazette, which is anytime now. Could the non-competition clause apply to teachers, for example? Like, I can't work in another school. So at the end of the day, this is something that is best answered by a legal expert, and it really depends on the non-competition clause that you have signed. Based on the law, you can go ahead and transfer to another school. They cannot stop you, but they could also decide whether they've got a legal case to pursue against you. So you can still move. Nobody can stop you. Your existing employer can't stop you from moving, but they can go ahead and decide if they want to take legal action. Somebody says, I'm confused. Kafala is sponsorship.